Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene Flash Update. Today's date, January 13, 2026, time in Texas, about 9 a.m. So some of the things we'll cover. Way to go, Texans. In their 30-6 win over Pittsburgh Steelers, and now the Texans advance in the playoffs. President Trump to Iran. Game on. And the U.S. military in the Middle East appears to be prepping. And what's going on in Venezuela? So let's get started. So we have from DURAN a recent interview with former U.S. government attorney Robert Barnes. It appears that regime change in Iran is definitely on President Trump's table, and that President Trump in the U.S. boxes in certain members of his intel group. They are not included in his war and regime change preparation planning, in which he only meets with select members of his cabinet. And what we're seeing in Venezuela is a takedown of imminent threats to the U.S. posed by military equipment and troops inside Venezuela from Russia, China, and Iran. So way to go, President Trump, with your recent move in Venezuela. And we have this. We had Spain yesterday seizing a ship coming out of Brazil loaded with 15 tons of cocaine worth about $400 million. So the Spain seized the ship and the cocaine and arrested the crew. So we see other nations stepping up to come against the cartels in Latin America. And we have this from BREITBART, reporting highlights from yesterday, a presser by Carolyn Leavitt, talking about President Trump has U.S. military action against Iran definitely on his table, and stated that what Iran is saying publicly is very different from the mullahs and their phone calls to President Trump. And President Trump Sunday, aboard Air Force One, in his gaggle with the U.S. press, said that Iran is crossing his red line. And we have this from Gateway Pundit, talking about also another foreign group inside the U.S. from Somalia. Hundreds of Somali nationals tried to storm an ICE location in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Now, there was a Minnesota state senator, Eric Putnam, who tried to stop the Somalis, telling them it was useless to take this action against ICE. ICE sprayed the group with tear gas, who were in the process, hundreds, storming the physical location where ICE was in an operation to arrest illegals who were in the U.S. So the Somali group in St. Cloud, Minnesota was put down. And we had hours later after that incident, President Trump ending all Somali refugee status. So that's going on. And we have this. So we have that in Iran, official Iranian sources, Iranian individuals who are getting on the ground information, have confirmed that inside Iran, the Iranian military have shot down in the streets 2,000 Iranian citizens. Now, from unofficial Iranian sources, we're getting it's up to 10,000 citizens killed by its own military inside Iran. We are getting also that the demonstrations inside Iran, we know days ago, were taking place in all 31 provinces, which is similar to our states. At that time, it was reported the protests were taking place in 153 cities. Now it's spread to 186 cities. So we see the revolt inside Iran against the current Iranian government spreading in scope. We have this intel from Hal Turner this morning. It does appear that the U.S. is preparing for a strike on Iran, and several indicators are. And I read this in other sources yesterday, that France had evacuated its embassy in Iran, not only removing essential personnel, but also dismissing all non-essential personnel at that location. So that's going on. And we have multiple sources saying that the U.S. military is in an operational window for the next 72 to 96 hours to strike Iran. And we have this on the U.S. news, and I saw this on multiple sources yesterday. The son of the previous Shah of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, coming out and speaking as a potential next leader of a transitional government in Iran once President Trump and the U.S. military and the American people bring about regime change in Iran. Now, he was accurate, Reza Pahlavi, in stating that he's only favored by about 20% of the Iranian people to head up a transition government. My thinking is that the U.S. Most likely will be successful in a regime change, as we saw the U.S. operating in Venezuela, and that Reza Pahlavi will come in to head a transition government while the U.S. sets up a democratic republic form of government so that the citizens of Iran can vote in their leader. And we have this regarding the U.S. military in the Middle East, that it is probability put forth by U.S. intel groups that the U.S. military prepares for a retaliatory strike, and that's about a probability of 65%. The probability that Reza Pahlavi will head up a transition government in Iran by U.S. intel is 80%. And we have this, that regional U.S. military forces in the Middle East are preparing for a retaliatory readiness. They are in that state right now of retaliatory readiness status as they prepare for an active attack window. So we see President Trump preparing now for regime change in Iran. We also believe Cuba is in a hot seat position, as is Mexico. So it's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.